appreciate it, and welcome to all of you. Good morning. Happy Friday. We are so thrilled to have you with us here for the third and final session of our Capital Growth series. I'm telling you, this has been an amazing and phenomenal series where we've opened up several conversations around economic development, economic mobility for our minority-owned businesses in the greater New Orleans region. I want to thank all of our speakers for taking the time out of their schedules to be here with us today. I'm looking forward to another really robust conversation around how we can continue to support minority-owned businesses in growing, scaling, and getting access to the resources that that we need for continued development of our businesses. You know, this is a very interesting time that we are in. And I want to make sure that our businesses understand that you have resources, you have a connection to the information and the education and the funding that you need. It's all a matter of getting connected to this ecosystem. And so please feel free to reach out to us, connect to us if you have questions. We want to make sure that you have all the information that you need. But this is around this series. This series is about the road to scalability and sustainability, right? We want to make sure that we are having very, deeper conversations around how we can support you. And so please, again, if you have any questions as we talk about understanding series funding, please feel free to ask those in the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We want to make sure that we hear from you, and we will leave time at the end of this session for Q&A. What I want to do now is thank our sponsors, Coaxum Enterprises and also Fidelity Bank Power. They have been wonderful partners in this series to make sure that you have access to this information. So I want to thank them for their partnership. But our phenomenal partner is Greater New Orleans, Inc. I want to say first, hats off to GNO Inc. for a phenomenal annual meeting on yesterday. I was encouraged, I was blown away, and I was re-energized around the work that in the possibility and the potential that we have as a region. And so I want to thank them for their leadership. And I want to thank them for their encouragement of our small business community. You know, we as a region are in a place where, you know, we do have the potential to soar. And I want to make sure that we are all connected and all on the same page about how we get there and work together to do that. So I want to thank you all for being here. Let me pitch it over to Ms. Jasmine Brown, who's our Public Policy Manager at GNO Inc., to open us up with some welcome remarks. Jasmine?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Classy. And just to echo your sentiments, I know Michael will go a little bit further, but we want to thank the Urban League for a phenomenal, to use your word, Classy, partnership in this endeavor. This truly has been a dynamic series. We are, on our last session. It is very bittersweet that this series has come to an end, but we are very encouraged and inspired by the continued participation of the community. And it's really our hope that those who have tuned in have truly been just elevated and further inspired to utilize the resources that are right here in the GNO region. So without further ado, I will pass it over to my dynamic boss, Michael Heck, the CEO and CEO and president of GNO Inc. You know, just trying to give you a little extra there, Michael.
Yo, look, you know how old GNO is? We go back to 1902, so.
You're not that old, but you know.
I was just about to make a comment on that.
I don't know. All right, that's okay. It's Friday. Everybody, welcome, and Classy and Judy and everybody at Urban League. Thank you for your fantastic partnership. I mean, this is just going to be. Don't be sad, Jasmine, because the partnership continues. There's a lot of respect and productivity between the two of us, so this will go on. I've really been happy with this particular Capital Growth series because I feel that it's gotten beyond the platitudes and into the practicalities. And, you know, that's great because the problem with a lot of these webinars, and particularly around entrepreneurship, is that it's usually a lot of bromides without actually information people can use. But I feel that each of these sessions has given people a little bit more to be smarter and more effective coming out of it. And that's real work. This one today, particularly interested in because series funding is something that everybody talks about and nobody understands. You know, kind of like short squeezes on Reddit. You know, we talk about seed, late seed, series A, B, C, D, Nobody knows what any of those are. The only round that I ever really understood was the friends, family, and fools round, because that was pretty literal. So you're going to learn today from 4 of my favorite people. If I was stranded on a desert island with just a few people in a mahjong game, this is who I would choose. Jimmy Roussel, who's president and CEO of the New Orleans Startup Fund, which is actually a spin out of G&O Inc., a nonprofit risk equity fund. Kate McCreary, who's now director of programs at Digital Undivided, one of our great entrepreneurial talents and intellects in the town. Aaron Walker, who is a trailblazer as founder and CEO of Camelback Ventures, and has been working on this now for a number of years and is scaling his success, one of our great leaders. And Gay Lebreton, who is perfect to have today because Gay was brought in as our board chair yesterday for G&O Inc. for the year. And one of her focus areas for the year is going to be entrepreneurship, and the other one's going to be Black wealth creation. So this is, the perfect kind of coronation ceremony for you, Madam Chairwoman. So thanks everybody for joining, and I'll turn it over to Anthony Bridges, who's Assistant VP from Fidelity Bank, to make some sponsor remarks. Thanks, Anthony, and thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you so much, Michael. Well, we all know that access to capital has been a major challenge for minority-owned businesses across the nation, as well as right here in our region. I'm excited that Fidelity Bank has the privilege of supporting an initiative like this one that will provide clarity in the ways that businesses can find the capital that seems to elude minority-owned businesses. At Fidelity, we have the pleasure of serving Louisiana residents and businesses for well over 100 years. Our mission is here for good, and we are committed to our core values of excellence, dependability, longevity, integrity, accountability, and importantly, community. At Fidelity Bank, we're here for our clients and we're here for the community. We wish you guys, much success in your pursuit of capital. And if Fidelity Bank can be a resource for you, please visit us at one of our 17 locations. We're here to help. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Anthony. And what I want to do now is I want to jump right into the conversation. As Michael mentioned, there's so much information out there, and we kind of use these words a lot, seed funding and, just various words to really kind of, talk about equity funding. And what I find is that a number of our businesses come to us and really don't really get the process or really understand what it takes and what it means to have equity investment. And so what I want to do is start off today's conversation. And again, I want to thank all of our sponsors, all of our participants. Michael did a great job of introducing all of our panelists. So our panelists are ready to go. Jimmy, Aaron, Gay, and also Kate, thank you so much. I want to kind of talk a little bit about what you guys do in your organizations to support businesses. I want to talk about the type of equity funding you all provide, or the services that you provide to support and connect businesses to equity funding. So I want to talk about that, and I want to jump right into you guys providing a little bit of introduction about your organizations. So let's go ahead and start off with Jimmy. Jimmy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization?
Yeah, so I'm native of New Orleans, longtime serial entrepreneur. At some point in life, you go from being a player to a coach. So I've switched over to the investor role. I'm the CEO of the New Orleans Startup Fund, and we invest in pre-seed rounds in the 10 parish region around New Orleans. So as Michael described earlier, we're usually the first check in almost every deal we do, alongside your friends and family. So that makes me the fool. Our typical check size is between $25,000 and $75,000, typically in a round size that will be somewhere between $100,000 and $250,000. And the goal of our fund is really to catalyze these young companies and get them ready for the angel community and follow-on investment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Aaron, tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization.
Definitely. Aaron Walker, founder and CEO of Camelback ventures. I am not native to New Orleans, but I've been here 7 years and have been loving every minute of it. Kellenbeck is an organization that seeks to increase opportunity and capital for entrepreneurs of color and women through making direct investments in their companies and also advocating for more equitable funding. And we do that primarily through an accelerator program. We call it a fellowship, but in many ways it operates like an accelerator, so a cohort-based model. We write $40,000 checks to all of the founders who we work with through the program. That is usually in the form of what's called a convertible note, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the terminology. And really sort of echoing a little bit of what Jimmy was saying, we sort of say, like, we're the friends and family for people who don't have it, right? Like, if you don't have that rich uncle who's just going to cut you a check and not really worry too much if you're going to get it back, particularly if you're a person of color, where can you go? And we want Kellenbeck to be one of those places.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Gay LeBreton.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Michael, for those nice words. I'm here today actually with my New Orleans Angel Network hat on, as opposed to my GNO Inc. hat. Actually, in my day job, I work for an investment banking firm here locally, Chaff & Associates, doing merger and acquisition advisory work, which is generally with larger companies than we're talking about here. But I've had a personal passion for startup businesses and have made small investments in them for many years. And then I found this great group of people at the New Orleans Angel Network who also share this interest in investing in startup and young businesses, and have done, at least for me, most of that type of investing with that group of investors probably since about 2014. The New Orleans Angel Network comes in after the startup fund. Once a business has a prototype, may even have some revenue, is still probably proving out its business model, certainly proving out its market. I think we've invested in maybe 25 businesses or 29 businesses, I think it is, since we started. And I think our average checks size is, I'm trying to remember, somewhere between $125,000 or $200,000. It's maybe a range from about 50 to about 400,000. We're a nonprofit that works with investors to look at potential opportunities, but each investor is actually making their own decision. We have maybe between 100 and 120 members at any particular given moment, and so the opportunity is presented to them, and then they're writing their own checks going into an investment. That's kind of an intro to the network. Did I leave anything out, Classy?
No, that's wonderful. Great, thank you so much. Because we're going to get into the details shortly here.
Yeah.
Kate?
All right, so Kate McCrary, I'm currently the director of programs at a nonprofit called Digital Undivided. I am originally from here, came back after about 15 years of being gone, after I swore I would never come back, but then, the city gets you back, and, absolutely loving it here. So Digital Undivided is committed to catalyzing the genius of Black and Latinx women founders. And what that really means is the honest acknowledgement that nobody's born knowing this stuff, right? Nobody's born knowing really how to start a business or how to approach things from the investor lens. So we meet them where they are. We can get into that in a little bit later. So we support women of color founders through 3 arms. One is Project Diane, our research arm. So Digital Undivided published the first report on the state of Black women in entrepreneurship, as well as the first report on the state of Latinx women in entrepreneurship. We also have a very strong thought leadership arm, and then programs. So we support women of color founders at the idea stage. We support them in the pre-accelerator stage to get them what I'm calling accelerator ready. And then we support women of color founders who are poised to go on and raise either $1 million in capital or to generate $1 million in revenue. So I'm a little bit of the odd one out in that we aren't a straight investment fund, but we are a pipeline partner. We work with Techstars, we work with 43 North, as well as local organizations in cities like New Orleans. And so we're also launching a new fellowship for those women who are poised to go on to the $1 Million Club. And for them, we do offer $5,000 in funding as well as $75,000 in services.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, welcome to you all, and thank you for being here. We know that, again, our small businesses have a lot of questions when it comes to understanding how they can get access to the funding that they need to start or to grow their businesses and to scale their businesses. And so having you all here as the experts is welcomed. And so I want to talk about, just to get us started, let's talk about the landscape in the region, the equity funding landscape, because again, trying to get an understanding of where we are in terms of how we are funding minority-owned businesses. So I want to pitch it to Aaron. If you could share a little bit about what you see in terms of the equity funding landscape in the greater New Orleans region, and give us some insight into what you see, particularly as it relates to minority-owned businesses.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, you've got a good chunk of the ecosystem right here on this webinar. To be candid, I think the landscape is emergent is maybe a word, right? I think there are a handful of organizations, funders who are focused on equity funding. Again, some of them are on this call, but and there's some new ones coming. Gail Benson announced equity fund last year. There is a couple entrepreneurs I met recently, actually. Jimmy introduced me to them as well, who are building an equity fund focused on food businesses, so food and agriculture and sort of in that area. And so I know that they're gonna get going soon. I've been on some phone calls with some folks outside of the region who are specifically targeting New Orleans as a place to start doing some equity funding. So I think that there are some growing opportunities, but in some ways it's still not enough. I was joking with Jasmine when we were talking before the call that in some ways I feel like I spent more time in New Orleans before I lived here than now that I do. Now, obviously I've been grounded because of COVID, but and part of the reason I say that jokingly but somewhat seriously is that to raise money, oftentimes I'm off to other cities to sort of pound the pavement and do those sorts of things. So that is some evidence that I think we have a ways to go here in New Orleans around sort of creating a more robust system.
Absolutely. Did anyone else want to add to that? Just about what you're seeing, or what you've seen over the years in terms of equity investment, in terms of the landscape. Have you seen an uptick? Have you seen things been kind of steady, or since the onset of COVID-19, have you seen more interest in entrepreneurs looking at equity funding as a next step for them? Have you seen any trends like that, Jimmy?
Well, I would say that, so I've been doing this about 8 or 9 years. The later stage funds available to minority business owners, there's just a ton more choices than there were 5 or 10 years ago. And that's both locally and nationally. So we have angel groups now, we have some funds emerging. All of that's very exciting. COVID has really put a dampening on the angel and early stage, just because as a practical matter for a lot of angel investors, they're kind of circling the wagons on their personal level, trying to figure out, do I have a job? Is my business going to make it or whatever? And angel investing for them is a little more of a passion and a side hobby. So the deal flow, I would say, second half of 2020 and early this year is slower than it has historically been, and it's all COVID related. Prior to COVID, I would have said we had great momentum. And I'm hoping that, you know, for the startup fund, we've already seen the beginning of 2021 pick up. We've already done our first investment. We have a lot of great deal flow in the pipe. We'll, you know, hopefully we'll be able to get a lot more deals closed this year.
I'd say that my experience is pretty similar to Jimmy's. Our angel network actually probably invested close to or a similar amount of capital, but for second rounds, supporting some of the companies that we previously invested in. You know, we had some pretty good deal flow. We look at investments from all over the country, but maybe not as well developed deals as maybe in 2019. And on the investor side, I think it's very true that a lot of people are either want to support the companies that they're already invested in to get them through this COVID period, because they're basically good opportunities. They just need a larger bridge, or they just personally trying to bring down their risk profile a little bit. So they're taking a little bit of a breather in this high risk category of investing.
Thank you all for that. I wanted to take a second just to go into, you know, a fundamental question. Let's go to some of the basics. You know, when you know, the word equity, you know, understanding that whether it's pre-seed funding, seed funding, whether it goes into series A, B, or C, equity funding is about an investment so that the investor contributes to, you know, under, you know, the sometimes the insight or strategy and sometimes management of the firm. However, it's really about a return on investment, correct? So when we talk about equity, we're talking about an ownership stake, correct? So again, I want to make sure that small businesses understand that what equity funding fundamentally, just very basically, very basic, different from debt financing, right? And so, yeah, loan is one thing, right? Debt funding, and then looking at equity funding, we are talking about the investor, whether it's a angel investor, again, whether it's series funding, we're talking about an equity stake in the business. So I wanted to say that because, again, sometimes people get confused when you say, oh, I want to go and I want to talk to NOLA Angel Network, I want to talk to all these folks, and then we have a conversation around, okay, what do you think about in terms of, you know, the ownership piece, right? And then it's, well, I don't want to hand over any piece of my business or my idea or my, you know what I mean? And so it's like, well, this isn't, you know, we gotta be clear about some of these things. And so, but what I do want to encourage our businesses is to think about the opportunity that equity investment presents, right? It's leveraging a resource, right, to grow. And so a lot of our businesses also, I want them to understand more about looking at the potential of your business moving forward and what investors look for. Can you guys tell us a little bit about what growth should look like for somebody, a business that you want to invest in? You know, we use these terms, right? High growth. What is high growth in your opinion?
Well, I can take that as a start if you'd like, and I guess we have a different way. I'd be really interested to hear what Jimmy and Aaron and Kate say. By the time you're coming to an angel investor, you know, we are really looking for a certain fit. I think someone used that word earlier, but we're looking for a certain fit. We focus on growth businesses where you know, where there's a potential return that's going to be commensurate with the high risk of investing in a startup business. And I emphasize a growth business versus a lifestyle business. And I'm going to define what a lifestyle business is in a minute. And it's not bad to be a lifestyle business. It's, frankly, most businesses are more of a lifestyle business. You know, my father had a business. It was a lifestyle business. A growth business is going to focus on the potential for rapid, robust growth that can be scalable on a large basis. Depending on the industry, an exact number, I'm not sure it makes sense to have an exact number, but you're looking for something that has the potential to grow in revenue and ultimately in earnings, hopefully into the millions. There might be a technological innovation or some kind of scientific research that is, spawning rapid development of new products. But it could just be there's an opportunity that nobody else has thought about, like a company we invested in, Trayaway. Very interesting and group that's was involved in the hotel industry and has had to really pivot in this COVID climate to look at other opportunities to play off its same technology. Today, typically, most businesses have some kind of technology that will play a part. I mean, you think about it, almost every business is technology enabled because we're all on the computer. Very, said by a simple old person. A growth business can be in any industry. That doesn't have to be basic science research. It can be any industry, but they're all united by one thing. They're looking to increase the value of the business, and in many cases, eventually sell the business so that the owners, including the angel investors, can make a return on the business. A lifestyle business is set up and run primarily by its founders with the aim of sustaining a particular level of income and to provide a foundation from which to enjoy a particular lifestyle. It's not going to grow into the multi-millions, or unlikely to grow into the multi-millions, but it can support a family, it can support generations, and it is just a different orientation.
Yeah, that's it. And understanding the type of business that you have today and want for the future, right?
Yeah.
And so, so this comes up and a lot when we talk to businesses about pivoting and what is their next level of growth. And, so I'm glad you, gave us that insight about the difference between the two. Any other comments on that? And then I want to go to Kate.
Sure. I'll just add one thing to what Gay shared, which is that, I think also, and people can have different opinion on this, but I think entrepreneurs should go in eyes wide open that growth usually is about the number of people you can impact, particularly at the early, or can acquire as customers or users, and less about making money in terms of like being cash flow positive. And I know sometimes that can be a little bit of a mind bend because you think, well, I didn't build this company to be in the red, but in some ways, the one of the major strategies of a growth company is like, how many people can we get on the platform? How many people can we get using the thing, even if we're not necessarily making money on it? Because, with sort of size, then will come the opportunity to build a profitable business. And there are instances where that has worked, but there have been many instances where that hasn't worked either. So, I think that's one of the risks going into it. But, I know a lot of the entrepreneurs of color I talk to, they're like, well, how do we get more sales? How do we get like our profits up? How do we get our profits up? And I think those are all like really great and important questions. But sometimes there can be a disconnect between that mindset and when you're talking to someone who is an equity investor and is really just focused on growth. So, I was on LinkedIn and someone said, like, would you rather have $10 million or 10 million fans, right? And from an equity standpoint, you would probably rather have 10 million fans because you can turn those 10 million fans into way more than $10 million.
That's it. Absolutely. That's a great example. Thank you so much. So I want to go to Kate. I have a question about some of the work that you guys are doing. So you guys provide research, and you guys contribute to the story of equity investment for Black women founders, brown women founders, but also you have training and empowerment programs, right, to support these businesses. So how does your organization prepare Black women founders for the equity funding process in the mindset?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting, and this is another panel conversation, but we're talking about equity funding when the elephant in the room is really racial equity, right? And Classy, to your point, equity is ownership. And so for Digital Undivided, we actually have in our mission, we envision a world where all women own their work and they see a path to success in building generational wealth, not in being an employee, but in starting something that they own. From the investor point of view, it's just smarter to expand your pipeline, and it's even better if you have somebody else vetting and training your pipeline for you, right? And so I think it's a win-win situation. So we, women of color founders have very often been ignored, but they also face barriers that you might not see in other entrepreneur space. So imagine if your entire demographic wasn't allowed to read or write for 400 years, right? How much would that set you back? If you weren't even allowed to participate in the country through a vote, much less own property or build enough wealth to start a business until 200 years after everybody else, how much would that set you back? And so, yes, we provide the educational piece. We, in our thought leadership, our programs, and our research, we say, what is X, Y, and Z? What is equity funding? But as any investor knows, that's really only the beginning of becoming investment ready. So we, focus on the personal side of the founder as well. Do you support the idea or the entrepreneur? We focus a lot on the founders. The women who come through our programs are scrappy, they're driven, they're faced with the problems often that they're solving, and that equals market opportunities, again, being solved by the founders who will succeed. So in terms of our programs, I'll do a little bit of plug if you'll indulge me. So for the pre-accelerator, again, we bring in the tech stars, we bring in the 500 startups and local partners to say, hey, not only is, this is the next level of where you're going, but also we work with them to build in their feedback of what they want to see into our programs. Because again, we, yes, our goal in that program is to help founders become accelerator ready, but that also ties into building confidence, acknowledging, creating that real space where folks can talk about imposter syndrome, right? We had a Black woman founder come through our Ideas Stage program, and she said, I didn't know Black women could be entrepreneurs because I don't know any other Black women who are entrepreneurs, right? And so you are also seeing sort of the socio-emotional side come through, and we specifically tailor our programs and everything we do to be culturally relevant. But again, it's a win-win situation for everybody, for founders, for investors, and for our program partners.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's some of the things that it typically is the elephant in the room, right? Some of the things that folks don't feel comfortable talking about. A lot of some of the issues, of course, the issues are, systemic, right? They are kind of inherent in our history and in how things have evolved over time. But the impact of it, right, is what is not talked about. And it's interesting because, of course, us, we at the Urban League provide programs for women and minority-owned businesses, and it's the same thing. There are certain elements of entrepreneurial development that we have to consider when we are working with our businesses, right? It's the confidence, right? It's the I think Erin mentioned it earlier, not having that family that can give you even $500 or $5,000 to get things started, or right, and so not having some of the educational opportunities. And so again, it all plays a role in where we are starting point, right? And so it's important to bring that up. So I appreciate that. I appreciate those comments. So I want to talk about a little bit, and so we'll go to the New Orleans Startup Fund. So Jimmy, I want to talk a little bit about, you guys focus on early stage businesses or pre-venture, right? Pre-revenue companies, I mean. What types of concepts or proof of concepts are you looking at to be a good fit for your organization?
Well, we don't actually, so we're a geography-based fund. So we primarily invest in the 10 parish region that mirrors GNO Inc.'s footprint. And because we took federal dollars originally, we have some federal restrictions that we cannot do. So they're related to what's called traditionally sin businesses. We don't do bars and restaurants. We don't do gambling, that kind of thing. We also don't do real estate investment. And we don't do what's called hit-driven businesses. So we don't invest in albums or video games or movies or concert promotions, anything that an artist might consider a hit, because I can't tell a hit from any other hit. Everybody thinks their hit's the greatest, right? So those are our exclusions. Other than that, we're wide open as long as we think it mirrors a high growth potential. So if you want to open a hardware store, that's great. That's probably not a good fit for us. If you want to open a chain of hardware stores across the country and turn it into the next Home Depot, that's right up our alley. And so we have technology companies, software companies, life sciences companies, oil and gas, food, you name it. If you come with a crazy idea, we're open. And so we see almost everything. Now, the downside of that is we're basically jacks of all trade, masters of none. And so one of my jobs is really to go find the expertise in that particular industry. If you come to us with a really good idea, and pull together a team of experts to really help both vet the idea to see if it's has merit or not, and then also to mentor the entrepreneur once we make the investment to shepherd them through that process.
And when should people reach out to you? At what point should they reach out to you guys?
If you're two people with an idea on a napkin, I'm happy to meet with you. I mean, we invest really, really early. And oftentimes the money that we do invest is to help you form a corporation, file a patent, build a prototype, really kind of get your house in order to be ready to go in front of real investors or angel investors or more serious investors, if you will. And so we're totally comfortable with a really unfleshed out idea. Oftentimes we'll meet with entrepreneurs. Our process is we sit down with you for about an hour, typically over coffee. We rarely look at a pitch deck. I'll read it ahead of time, but we'll just basically have a conversation. And if I think you're ready to go, we have an investment committee and we'll run you through an investment process. More often than not, we think you're not ready. And we will farm you out to incubators, accelerators, and give you some homework to come back and sort of work on these ideas. And then there's a give and take, and sometimes it takes weeks or months. But then when you're ready, we'll oftentimes be the first check and then shepherd you through the investment process. And there are all sorts of resources in town, that can help companies flesh out their ideas.
Awesome. And Gabe, what characteristics are you guys looking for in a venture? And what are some of the minimum requirements? And I know you said that it's, typically individual investment, but if you could just give us a sense of what.
Sure.
What
Sure. Number one thing always is the management, the entrepreneur, their market knowledge, experience, leadership, trustworthiness. It's a big one. Sense of coachability. None of us know everything. Part of what we bring to the table is a lot of people who've built businesses, who want to help the businesses we invest in. If somebody's kind of, my way or the highway, we're probably not a good fit for them. We don't tell people what to do, but we're damn good coaches, and we've got a lot of resources beyond money that we'll try to put on the table when someone needs it. Maturity, that isn't a matter of age. And you know, entrepreneurial experience is nice. It's not a must. We're looking for market that, you know, that's, you know, if you're addressing a teeny weeny thing, it's probably not going to fit. We're looking for a market of some size where the company can grow to address that market. Looking if there has been any kind of market validation, that's a good thing. You know, that isn't necessary. We've invested in pre-revenue companies. We've invested in companies that have sold their first products after Jimmy has funded the prototype. But we're looking at least for some path to validation. Certainly revenue is not required, but it's good. Maybe a business model that has recurring revenue, what the customer pipeline might be, how you get the customers, then, you know, and can the company then scale from there? We certainly want to know something about the competition, and then we will look at financial projections and financials. A lot of people don't have financials, but financial projections that teaches us a lot about whether a company has some sense of how they're going to operate, and then of course we're looking for a potential exit opportunity, because we're not looking to be in this business for 20 or 30 years. We're looking to be in the business for, you know, 5 years. Or sometime less is better, but more is not unheard of. Particularly recently, investments tend to stretch out a little bit, 5, 6, 7 years. At some point there, we're going to want an exit, and the entrepreneur's thoughts about how a business might be exited from our viewpoint are very welcome.
Boy, I'm smiling because everything that you mentioned is what we have included in our entrepreneurial development for our women and minority-owned businesses. You know, we have a program called Scale Up Louisiana, and we are working directly with our businesses to look at every single thing that you mentioned. And I want to say again to our businesses, you know, when we don't just throw around content, just, you know, doing it just to give you a task to do. When we work with you to develop and to say, hey, let's do the uncover the market research, right? You got to build the business case. So let's look at the market, let's look at the industry insight to understand what's going on and to get the data that supports why this is the direction you should be taking. It's not for nothing, right? We gotta make sure the businesses understand that the things that we include and a lot of our technical assistance partners, right? We are including this content into our curriculum for a reason, because it's needed. This is how you build the business case. And also understanding that piece about coachability and being open to getting the expertise, right, of folks that have the experience, I think is another thing. Oftentimes, and I've seen it with multi-million-dollar businesses where they can't go anywhere because they are so committed and stuck with how they're doing business today, with the product they're doing business with. You know, it's like, you know, be open to you know, new ways of doing things, but also be open to other folks that can you know, provide you with additional insight of how you may be, the direction that you may be able to take. So being open and coachable, I think, is a huge thing that I appreciate you saying. I want to ask, I want to go to Erin and talk about, and maybe Kate too, talk about some practical steps that are early stage minority entrepreneurs can take to better posture themselves to receive equity funding. And so, you know, we talked about the technical assistance pieces. Do you have anything specifically that you think our entrepreneurs should be doing to position themselves?
I'm happy to go, Kate, but if you want to go first.
Oh, I was just going to make a really sarcastic remark about just be careful about what you hear on Clubhouse, above all things. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll share two things I think people could do, or at least should think about doing. One is think about whether you really want to like be in partnership with someone else, because that's really what your investors are. And there's a saying, you either can be rich or you can be king or queen. And I think oftentimes, at least as it pertains to this question, that's the question in front of an entrepreneur who is considering equity funding. Do you want to be king or queen? Do you want to have all the power and control? And in some ways, that's really important. Like I heard what you said, Kate, sort of particularly around Black women and women of color owning their work. And there's like, deep value in that, at least from my perspective. And I understand why people have that viewpoint, particularly given all of the, work and wealth that has been, plundered and deprived over, centuries. So I don't want to minimize that. And in this question, though, it does mean, giving up, some of that power for the opportunity to potentially be more wealthy, right? So even if you look at, some of the, titans of entrepreneurship that we revere, whether it is Bezos or, others, I don't have the exact percentages off the top of my head, but I would guess that all of them at this point own less than 20% of their company. Most of their company is owned by other people, and yet their wealth is massive, which also then on the back end comes with a whole lot of power, right? So if it works out, your wealth and power can grow exponentially. But I would just sort of, wrestle with that question, figure out what do you want, right? And I'm not saying that I think that there's a right answer. Everyone just has to make that choice for themselves. But if you make it, then I think that's the first step to understanding and being ready for what it means to take equity investment. And then the second thing is talk to a lawyer, right? And sort of like get your sort of business ducks in a row. Sometimes you want to get started, you form an LLC. It's not really always the best form for equity investment. You just form in a certain state. There's some states that are better than others in terms of handling some of these things. So I would also say, just from like a legal standpoint, just talk to a lawyer.
Yeah, I think my answer would be similar to Erin's, in that one, like there's so many good resources. You have to dig a little bit to figure out which information is good, but there are so many podcasts and blogs and videos. I mean, with the internet, everybody has access to a lot just in digital content, and that in itself, as I said, is you have to wade through it, but inform yourself, surround yourself, be obsessed with learning more. The second thing is, also going back to Erin's point, is just be intentional, right? There's so much chaff out there. There's so much noise that can, lead, that pressure and that excitement can often lead an entrepreneur to jumping onto a decision that that isn't right for them because they're not being intentional about it. So again, surround yourself and be obsessed with resources and learning, and then finally be intentional.
Boy, I tell you, I want to talk a little bit more because this is what you guys are saying is pretty powerful to kind of dissect and think about, how we think about ownership, right? How we think about, I came from nothing, right? Have limited resources. I finally, to get the courage to start my business, and now, in order for me to make it, I got to give something up to someone else, you know what I mean? And so again, it's the mindset though, because we got to get to the point where we're thinking about not just owning that small business, but entrepreneurial thinking and thinking about leveraging investment as a long-term growth strategy, right? How am I going to leverage this investment to move on to the next opportunity, right? Next market opportunity. So it all goes hand in hand. But again, we got to get through that first level of, what that means to give up a stake in our businesses and look at it as an opportunity to leverage a resource, again, for a long-term plan. So
yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is I think it's both. It's internal and external. So the be intentional and surround yourself with resources is internal. The external is looking at access as a human right, right? And that depends on systems and laws and policies and attitudes and more investor friendly term sheets and perhaps would help an entrepreneur grow, right? And so all of that is outside of an entrepreneur's control. And Classy, what you're describing is also within an entrepreneur's control, but it's really, you know, internal factors and external factors really have to work together. But in the end, as I mentioned, it's just smarter business from the investor side, right? To expand your pipeline and utilize programs like Digital Undivided so that we can do the vetting and training and coaching, et cetera, for you.
Yeah. So I want to, we'll stick with you, Kate, for just a minute, and then I'm going to go back to the startup fund. But we talked about so you talk about some of your data, like Project Diane, but you know, we know that for women of color founders, you know, there's there's disparity, right? Your 2020 data states that the average funding for Black women was about $125,200 for our Latina women, and then 2.5 million was the median. So this is a huge disparity, right? 2.5 median for all investments. And so can you share kind of what you guys see as the root cause for the disparity? I know, you know, it can be a deep conversation, but if you can share with us what you guys know today about why that may be happening and what steps can be taken to address that.
Yeah, so I'll break off what can actually be handled through a conversation in this panel and try to limit it. But yeah, I mean, like I was saying, it's internal and external. It's multifaceted, it's intersectional, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't address any of them, or nor does it mean that they are not all urgent, right? So first of all, you know, obviously the social context of the historic, persistent, ongoing race and gender discrimination and bias, and the disproportionate impact of crises like COVID on Black and Latinx founders, but also in general populations of color. And that's directly linked, you know, seen in who's getting the vaccine, who isn't, right, for instance. The second level is community founder level. So looking at networks in the tech and angel investment and VC communities, looking at business development readiness, all of that. And then the third level is at the ecosystem. So there's a lack of targeted, culturally competent or culturally relevant support, right? And I think that another layer is, you know, do these numbers make sense not only for women of color, but even for smaller ecosystems like New Orleans, right? The whole rise of the rest communities. These figures have been, I think, impacted by Silicon Valley, which is not like New Orleans, and by white male founders with, you know, the Harvard background, which are not like the women of color founders that we support. So I think just being real and honest about where do those numbers come from, where do those metrics and expectations come from. From the research specifically, the primary aim of Project Diane and our research more broadly is to just educate founders in the ecosystem, especially about the landscape of Black and Latinx women-led startups, so that they have a sense of the challenges and opportunities, can make more informed decisions, know that there are other founders like them who are navigating that journey, and know that there's growing ecosystem support. You know, I would love to say, oh, this is the silver bullet in solving all of those, but I think, you know, there's a few things that can be done. I think one, from the policy side, just keeping in mind both intent, what is the intent of a policy and what is the impact? What are the biases of the data that you're collecting? You see this in my work with the United Nations and USAID foreign policy of certain data is collected and then that gets spun off into a really biased policy, right? So who has been left out? Have they even been asked? And I think that as a broad principle for organizations like Geno Inc., but even for us, I mean, let the ones facing the problem not just speak, but lead the solution creation processes. You know, it's a lot like making smart investments for your portfolio. You want the entrepreneurs who are obsessed with solving the problem, who have the tenacity and resilience to solve a problem in a way that resonates most with their target customers. And these entrepreneurs are usually the ones who have had the touch point with the problems themselves. So I think the public sector needs to borrow this mindset from the private sector to find product market fit between the solutions they're providing and their target customers. And that involves putting the people who have faced the problems that these policies are meant to address at the forefront of leading the solution creation and decision-making processes.
Wow, absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that insight. I appreciate it. And I encourage, our audience to visit Digital Undivided to get more information on the Project Diane, the results of that research. I mean, it's wonderful stuff. So again, please follow up to get more information. I want to ask Jimmy about their portfolio. You guys have about, really, I don't know if this is still accurate, about half of your portfolio is minority owned and more than 1/3 is women owned businesses. How have you guys been able to cultivate inclusivity within your portfolio?
Well, it didn't originally start out that way, but what we did is we created a program called Power Moves about probably 6 or 7 years ago, which was strictly an outreach and an awareness effort, to understand, or to promote what the startup fund, our resources and what was available, and try to recruit entrepreneurs to come to us, but also to showcase entrepreneurs to investors. And so we're kind of at the center of a hub there between the entrepreneurs and the investor community, and really understand all those resources. And that turned out to be a really powerful program, not only in New Orleans, but nationally. It worked out really well. Now we've made enough investments that I think we have a reputation, and we're a fairly collegial ecosystem here. So, Aaron and the folks from Idea Village and Propeller and, Thrive and Good Work Network. I mean, everybody's on a first name basis. So it's easy to stay in touch with everybody. And now that we've made enough investors, I checked before the seminar, we have 10 minority owned companies that we're looking at this year to make investments in. So deal flow for us right now is not a problem, and it's an encouraging.
Jimmy, just remember where we are. We're looking for those investments.
Yes, no, I know, but we've actually shifted our mindset a little bit as well. When we were first starting out, we tended to write a check in kind of a cheerleader mode. When we met a young entrepreneur, that we wanted to be supportive and we wanted to get the money into the company really quickly. And we found sometimes that we invested almost too soon, and that the company did not make enough progress with the money that we gave them. And there was a gap between where we took them to and where they needed to get to. And so we've pushed a little bit more tough love up front with our investments and make it a little bit more conditional, but it allows us to really complete that cycle. And very much this is a pass the baton process. We're only investing a relatively small amount of money, like Aaron, but if we can get that entrepreneur further along, so with the angel networks or a big incubator or somebody like that can then take them to the next level, we've done our job. And so we now have placed more, not necessarily restrictions, but demands on the entrepreneur, but there are more resources available to them to meet those demands as well. And we're having better outcomes as a result.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great work there. Gay, anything specifically that you guys are doing at the network on diversity outreach and funding practices? Anything specific?
This series is part of that. We get our deals really not over the transom, but every investment we make goes to our website, fills out our investor form, and we look at everybody. A lot of places you really kind of need to know the people before you go there. If you put in an application, we're going to look at it at some level and try to give feedback. We also get investments because we are in a number of groups around the country of angel funds. We started this because we needed to fill out rounds for our companies. So we started reaching out to other angel groups that we knew around the country, and now we trade investments and get additional capital into the state and sometimes into their investments that way. But you know, while we invest nationally, our outreach efforts are really focused locally, and they have been in the past, just broadly across universities and across all the incubators. Jimmy and his group are a close, I guess, referral source, and he's just such a resource, honestly, both Jimmy personally and his group. But what we were doing a few years ago, where we were coming to do speeches, outreach, training seminars, have office hours, which we were doing across a broad group. At the moment, what we're trying to do is really target that primarily, frankly, to the African American community in our state, and that means largely in the greater New Orleans area, but honestly in the state, because we consider ourselves a statewide group. We have investors from all over the state, and we just think it's the time, and we have there are a lot of resources being put here to help grow that group of entrepreneurs. So we're actually hoping, Classy, that you will help us, because we really would like to make more progress there. We have maybe, out of our 29 investments, I'm thinking maybe only 9 of them reflect diversity, and that's not enough from our viewpoint. And that means 1 African American led company, 5 Caucasian women-owned led companies, and 3 companies led by Asian men. And while that's good, it's not enough. And so we need help to find more companies that are investable. And actually, you know, maybe I should say, Aaron, Kate, Jimmy, we need help. We need you to help us find these groups.
Looking forward. There's an opportunity, right? Yeah. So I appreciate that. I mean, let's get to, you know, we're going to get together. We're going to work together on, and the good thing is, you know, we do, again, work with businesses across the state. So we have that connection and insight. And again, we're excited about, you know, connecting businesses to you all for, you know, for an opportunity. So looking forward to it. I want to, before we go into Q&A, just I want to ask Aaron about if you could tell the businesses on the line about your fellowship program a little bit more. You opened up with it, but I want to make sure that everybody is clear about, you know, when it happens, what's the cycle, what types of businesses you bring onto the fellowship program, all of that good stuff, eligibility. If you could share with the audience about your fellowship program.
No, thank you for that, Classy. So, yeah, one of our flagship efforts is the Kellenbeck Fellowship, and you know, we've been making some changes to it the last half of 2020. So, you know, I'm going to give a broad overview of what it's been, and then, you know, give some indication of where we're going. So it is it's a cohort-based program, so that just means like we pick groups of entrepreneurs at the same time, and we put them through a program. It's traditionally been about 5 to 6 months, and you know, again, as I said before, we write a $40,000 check to them, and then we provide coaching and connections. And so every entrepreneur we work with has a coach, and then we have what we call an expert bench. So people who are expert in certain issue areas, whether it be marketing or strategy or fundraising or board development or whatever, and they have access to those individuals to, you know, get the advice that they need. And then we also try to leverage our networks, because we just realize how important social capital is as well. And oftentimes, you know, one of the most valuable things an investor can do beyond writing the check is make a key introduction, right? That can shorten the timeline from point A to point B dramatically, and that can be, you know, it's like the accumulation of those kinds of things that can help you run the race a little bit faster. In terms of the companies we focus on at the Kellenbeck Fellowship, we've got 2 tracks. One is our education track. So any company that is focused on education, K-12 through higher education. And that also includes stuff around workforce development. We sort of see like work as an extension of education also. And then we have another track we call conscious tech. So any company that is tech or tech enabled that is, increasing access to, something particularly for underrepresented populations. So we've done work with like financial inclusion, health and wellness. We've even done stuff around government technology and sort of increasing access to like public policy information. So any entrepreneur who sort of fits in that bucket would also be eligible for the fellowship. We actually opened our application in March. So definitely go to our website, camelbackventures.org, and sign up, and you'll sort of get our notifications. One of the things that we're going to change moving forward is traditionally we've done one cycle a year, but one of our reflections last year is that it's really unfair to ask entrepreneurs to wait until we're ready. Like our job is to like catch entrepreneurs when they're ready. And so we're not going to get there this year, but we're going to do 2 cycles this year, and by next year we're going to be doing 6. So we want to just sort of create more entry points for entrepreneurs to be able to get the support they need when they need it, not just like when we're ready.
Absolutely. Please let us know how we can support you in recruiting for those cohorts. I want to see, we have some questions. I'm going to pitch it to Erica and see what questions we have in the chat.
Okay, great. So our first question is from Margaret. She's in the Baton Rouge and Zachary area, and she's wondering if the equity investment opportunities are available to her there.
Well, certainly from the Angel Network, yes, we've got a lot of investors in the Baton Rouge area that help us screen investments up there, and yes, absolutely.
From our perspective, we generally focus on New Orleans. We make exceptions for Baton Rouge, so we'd be happy to talk to you. We also have a sister fund called Innovation Catalyst in Baton Rouge. We'd be happy to introduce you to them as well.
For Camelback, the fellowship is open nationwide, so we don't really care where you live. We're also doing some targeted investing in New Orleans and the GNO region, of which Baton Rouge definitely is an extension of that. So we'd be open to that conversation.
Yeah, same with Digital Undivided. Our programs are virtual right now, and probably components will remain virtual. So they're open to anyone in the nation, and we will help you negotiate against NOLA or New Orleans Startup Fund to get a better serve sheet. But yeah, our programs are virtual and open to anyone.
Awesome.
Okay, great. So Lynette has a 3-part question. First, she says, I'm in the ideation phase of creating a SaaS platform that will assist with our oversaturation of online obligations. So the first question is there a specific funding source I should be focusing on that would be better fitting for the SaaS platforms?
Well, I mean, look, I think you're probably limited to either an equity investment, of which, types of things Startup Fund or Aaron does, or another source of capital can be pitch competitions. So if you do go to pitch competitions and you win a pitch competition, it's free $10,000, $25,000, and a lot of young entrepreneurs actually can cobble together, a fair amount of money to get them off the ground with pitch competitions.
And I'll just chime in and say, not only is our START program made for idea stage entrepreneurs, but also I always encourage founders to look towards revenue first as well, because then you don't have to pay anyone back. So.
Okay. The second question is, how soon is too soon to begin reaching out to funding sources? And that's related to that same Lynette, that same person.
I think that's a double-edged question. It's probably not. I think there's never too soon to get feedback on your business model and your idea and that kind of thing. On the flip side, as an entrepreneur, the longer you can forego taking money and the more progress you can make in growing your business and building out your prototype and onboarding your customers, the less of your company you're going to give up to investors. So again, you can always get feedback. There are tons of resources who can give you feedback on your business model, and it's never too soon to do that. So I would encourage you to do that. And the investors will tell you when you're ready to take on capital.
Ditto to everything Jimmy said.
All right, good deal. So the next question, the final question that Lynette has in that string is, she's in that ideation phase of creating the SaaS platform, and she's wondering if there's a specific funding source that would fit her specific phase.
Well, it's usually friends and family or an incubator. So those are the two typical choices that most young entrepreneurs, when they're at that phase, where they get their money from.
Okay.
Although Jimmy, I mean, I do think it's worth saying again what you said about pitch competitions. That can be a good source, and also the process of the pitch competition. You're usually given coaching, or you can often be given coaching, and it helps you look at your own business idea more concretely, about how the idea will actually make money, where the customers will come from. It helps you think through that. So that I really actually think Jimmy had just a great point when he said that.
I want to add really quickly here. So, you know, every year we do, the Urban League has our Women in Business pitch competition, and the women entrepreneurs that participate go through, they used to have an independence accelerator program, but now they are graduates of our Scale Up Louisiana program, again, which is a program for early stage businesses looking to develop that scalable business model. And one of the things that, you know, of course, we bring them through is that their goal is to get to the pitch competition, so they have the opportunity to win this $10,000, right? But, you know, the important thing is understanding that there is a process to getting up to that. That pitch is just one piece of it. It's the process of building out your business model. It's the process of understanding what funding you need, you know, what capital you need, what is it going to be used for, how you're going to generate revenue, right? There are these pieces that sometimes go as if they're not a part of the process, right? Or is that, you know, in the great thing is that our businesses come out of that with so much more, right, than what they think or thought they were in there for. Again, the pitch competition, you know, it's just one small piece of it. There is a, you know, when you get to the point of, you know, you're in business and you're looking for that next investment, the question becomes, what is your revenue generating business model that's going to be profitable and scalable, right, over time? And that's, you have to get there. You have to get there. And, you know, pitching is great. Pitching is one thing, but you got to get to, you know, the business model. You got to get to, you know, how are you going to generate revenue? And it becomes, you know, what does become frustrating to a lot of us technical assistance partners when businesses, their revenue model becomes the pitch competitions, right? The revenue model is the pitch competition, as opposed to, how is this product, service, innovation going to create value for a customer? How can I produce it in a profitable way? That goes, you know, that kind of goes sometimes. And so I want to be clear about that. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were about to stop. I'm sorry to interrupt. Finish.
That's fine.
I just wanted to sort of, you know, I think that there's a person who had asked a question about sort of the SaaS company and being at the idea phase. You know, like pitching an idea, admittedly, is like fundable, but it's really hard. Like I just want to like say and acknowledge that point. Because there are a lot of great ideas out there, and it's sort of like how do you discern a good idea from a bad idea? But I think one of the things that I've learned over time is that the entrepreneurs, like part of your job, particularly at that stage, is to teach, right? Like most investors are like, they're smart folks, they see a lot of stuff, but like part of your job is to like educate them about like the opportunity and like the field and the sector that you're in a way that like you're basically making it clear and apparent to them why your idea, you know, if it's executed well, could really work well. And so I know oftentimes when I'm looking to entrepreneurs, you know, I'm looking for them to like help me see the world in a way that I'm not seeing it. And if you could help me sort of see that in a certain way, like I can almost, that's like the heart, like that's, to me, that's like the goal, not to necessarily convince me of like the efficacy of the idea, because like there's gonna be a lot of stuff that works, there's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't work. But like if you can sort of help me to understand and see what that opportunity is and why you sort of have seen something in the marketplace that is like an untapped opportunity that this thing is going to address, or you sort of see a trend that's coming before other folks do, or whatever it is. So I just wanted to like emphasize that point, that it's that particularly at that stage, you know, like what you're selling to someone who you want to fund you is like your understanding of a problem that maybe that investor doesn't see, and your ability to get them to believe that you can, you know, execute on the vision that you have based on your understanding.
Yeah, excellent point. And the last thing you said is something I think Gabe mentioned earlier too. Are you the person to do it, right? That, you know, are you the entrepreneur to lead this thing to get it to the next level? And so that's good. Erica, any other questions? Or is that the last one?
No, Sabrina's question is, what is the timeline for high growth businesses? 1 year, 2 years, or 3 to 5 years?
Oh, I think
Yeah.
it depends on the business, but I think you need to assume that you're on a 10-year journey at the minimum. And we talk about the ability of the potential to do $10 million in revenue after a 5-year ramp up. I will tell you, out of 47 investments, 47 companies we've invested in, we've had 2 reach that. So it's more the potential than the actual execution of that to really define high growth.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And
So-
one, Taneha, I'm sorry, was somebody answering?
No, go ahead.
Oh, Taneha asks, if a company has a device that will require FDA approval, would that scare off the investors on this call?
I'm not a scientist, so I mean, there'd have to be some learning that I need to do on that. Like, I'm always open to a conversation, but I will admittedly say, like, you know, science and engineering is not my background, so like I have to do some learning, and you have to help me learn about that for me to even begin to get comfortable.
The short answer is no, but you need the right type of investor. So there are investors who specialize in, you know, 510K process. They're very comfortable with it. They have a team of people that they can bring to bear to help shepherd you through that process. But everybody goes into it with eyes wide open that process is time consuming, expensive. It's a long journey with no guarantee of success at the end of it. So there are certain investors who specialize in that, and part of what we can do is point you in that right direction.
Yeah, so we'll be making sure that Tania gets connected with you all, and we connected her to Camelback already, and so we'll make sure that she gets the support that she needs moving forward. So thank you. So finally, I want to just thank our panelists, but also if you can give us just your final words of wisdom. How can you know, our minority-owned businesses prepare themselves for equity funding? How can we think about the entrepreneurial mindset moving forward? How can they connect with you? Any just final words of wisdom that you'd all like to share? And we'll start with you, Kate.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier, the 2 points of be obsessed with learning and be intentional.
Absolutely, thank you. Gay?
I loved Erin's last words because that is what a young company is doing when they bring an idea to us. They are getting us to see their vision. I love that, and I think it sums up the whole webinar today. Honestly, for me, I would say also just be open, be coachable. And look at and use the resources in the community, because there are a lot of them, sometimes hard to find. But if you're reaching out, people are going to help you find what you need.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jimmy?
Well, I would echo what Gay just said. You know, I think a lot of young entrepreneurs, they feel alone, like they're the only person going on this journey. And you're really not alone, because there are other entrepreneurs in town that we can connect you with who've been on this journey, and it can sort of help you manage expectations. And B, there are resources in the community in terms of technical assistance, there are free legal services. There are a bunch of people who really have set out and are in your court and want you to succeed. So the question is, you just have to have the perseverance to find those resources and assemble your team and then go on that journey together, but you're not alone.
That's right. Thank you so much. Erin?
Yeah, I'd say 2 things. One is, always hold on to the big vision and figure out like what's the smallest thing you can do today and tomorrow that you can be successful at. I know sometimes, you start and you have these really big ideas, you sort of want to do it all at the same time. And, there are things, 7 years into Camelback that, I've been thinking about for 7 years and we're just starting to get to them. So I would say that that's one. And then 2 is, if being an entrepreneur is something that you want to do, continue to pursue that. Camelback is the 3rd company that I have started. I have seen the breadth of entrepreneurial failure and success. None of those things define you. They're just things that happen in life. So if the thing that you're working on right now doesn't work out, who knows, right? Like those first 2 ones that didn't really work out the way I imagined, I thought that sort of defined me, but in many ways, it was like those experiences that was preparing me for the 3rd one. And, that's easy to sort of say on the other side of it, but as someone who's sort of been through that spectrum, I would just offer that as advice.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much. This has been what I hope has been an insightful panel for our small businesses on the call today. I want to thank our guests for participating today. I want to thank all of the attendees for your questions and just for being present today. Some of these points of the conversation could go on, by themselves in their own sessions, right? Some of the questions, some of the topics. I'm looking forward to continuing some of these conversations moving forward with each of our organizations that have been represented here today. I want to, again, thank GNO Inc. This has been a magnificent partnership. We have been able to reach hundreds of business leaders, small business owners, and those that support the small business community across the state of Louisiana and in the greater New Orleans region with this series. Again, this is, I said it at the top of the series, but this is just the beginning of the work. We are glad to kick off 2021 with a series that just like this. And again, we're looking forward to moving forward in the year with more. And so again, I want to thank everyone for being here today. I want to again thank our sponsors, Coaxum Enterprises, and also the Fidelity Bank Power Program. Thank you so much for your partnership and your support of minority-owned businesses and making sure that these sessions were able to happen. None of us, we don't work alone. We work in collaboration, and we rely on, the ability of our ecosystem to collaborate to make things happen. And so again, I appreciate everyone for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you to Ms. Jasmine Brown. It has been my pleasure to work with you, and I'm looking forward to our next venture together. With that, enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Happy Friday, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.